Hi all, welcome to another episode of Saturday Architecture. And interestingly, over the past 2-3 weeks, I've been reading stuff and playing around with low code, no code applications like Power BI. And then I just tried something with UiPath, which is RPA. And then I was trying to do something with Power Automate. And also starting working with a couple of customers around this space. It dawned on me that there is a problem of technical debt that is faced by our industry, severe technical debt. And the manifestation of the technical debt is lack of business agility, which means the business is not really happy with the IT. And that in turn leads to how much budgets or freedom IT gets to play. So it's becoming a chicken and egg story. So the business says, if you show me benefits, I'll give you money. IT says, if you give me money, I will show you benefits, and we are at a stalemate. And this fight is becoming stronger and stronger by the day, right? Nobody is able to move, right? It's becoming trickier and trickier. Okay. And to complicate things further, what's happening now is the gap between the enterprise space agility and the real world B2C or the real world is widening, because you see the real world things moving so fast, the user experience is getting by leaps and bounds. The enterprise is still, we are looking at plain vanilla screens, click three buttons, one browser, one application to another application kind of stuff, right? So in this context, I realized that I'll just take another analogy that, let's assume in a real world, what is the food that we eat typically? Okay, so let's say I'm very hungry, right? And I don't know cooking. What is that we do? We go to the shop, buy a bread, biscuit, jam, something like that, take it, apply it, and eat it, and I'm done for. Okay. Or for example, in today's case, I go to Swiggy and order something. Okay. So this is how we tackle it. Worst case, I buy a packet of biscuits, eat 3 biscuits, drink water, and I'm done. Okay. Or a cool drink. But just imagine another thing. Shops only sold raw material. Okay. They'll only send rice. Instead of bread, you will get wheat, full raw wheat. That's all you will get. Okay. And every house needs to have a kitchen. And there'll be somebody in the kitchen where they will cook and give, which means you want bread, you have to go buy wheat and come prepare it, and then only you'll get bread. Butter, you have to wait 3 days, get the milk, churn it out, heat it, make butter out of it, and then come. Right? Imagine we live in a world like that. What will happen to us? We will go mad. We will kill the people who are in the kitchen. Okay. Now, this kitchen is analogy to the IT teams that we have got. Okay. This low code, no code is something similar to getting a biscuit or taking a bread and butter, putting it and eating it for my hunger. Right. So there are basic things that's available. No, this is outside kitchen, right? It's already made out there. I take it and I pack something and I meet my immediate needs. Doesn't mean I don't need a kitchen in the house. I still need a kitchen in the house for my meals and other things. But I still need a biscuit packet, a chips packet, or a bread and a jam. Now, this will kind of help me stay less hungry over a period of time. And if I kind of take the analogy of, let's say, our low code world, I think what happens is, because of this, one of the things that comes up is an equivalent of a bread packet could be a Power BI or a UiPath automation, which we call as today the terminology of citizen developer is coming. And I think as IT, I would actually lay it out there is, how can we enable citizen developers? What would be your thought? I think, for example, I'll give Ram and Venkat some time to think about it. For example, Venkat, in your case, right, you being the head of tech, right? How will you
Yeah, yes.
make how will you make your other company members? Now it could be people in sales, people in marketing. Instead of them they coming to you for every solution, how is it, or what are your challenges that you face in making them do their own development? Now you don't think I will do development. You have to think I will help them do development, and I will become an enabler for it. Like I'm not give them full cooked. So Ram, yours in an enterprise scenario is even more challenging, right? What would be the roadblocks? So let's just think about what are your thoughts about what I have said, and what would be the blockers that you can, and maybe if you have a solution for that, you could. Um, I would just start off by telling something like, in my case, I think the first thing which I would face is I have to develop confidence that the others can also do development. Development is not one, let's call it uh, a something like a elite thing, right? It's not an elitist quality. Writing code or doing development is not something for the elite, right? It is something for the masses. I have to get that into the mindset. Probably.
I'll take your food analogy further, right? So this is you want so a lot of these low code, no code development tools. The food analogy equivalent would be they are like empty or ready mix, right? So it requires some cooking, but you really don't have to gather everything, all the ingredients, everything. But the ready mix is available. You just follow simple instructions. You will have, so you have a little bit of customization also you can do, but ready mix is available, and you just buy it off the shelf and just cook it for yourself. So there is small amount of cooking. So that is probably, I think. So and just to go back to this, how is it a new problem, or it has been existing for a long time, right? So as architects, all of you have been involved in this build or buy decisions, right? We've had these discussions number of times earlier also, that large enterprises, right? So when do you build, when do you buy? So this is, I'm just trying to sort of simplify this to the level that this is a, you buy means I'm just going to use something off the shelf and maybe configure it a little bit and do it. This build versus buy has been around for a very long time, right? And just look at in your career how many ERP related discussions you have had, and how business processes and ERP built by customization, all these discussions are, the basis remains the same. When do you decide that you need something really specially cooked meal, right? Which is only to your taste, right? That is the decision for the architects and for the business to make, actually. So that, I think that should be the guiding factor behind deciding whether this is for you or not. Who should be really considering this part, and probably the low code, no code doesn't apply to all scenarios, right? So the low code, no code at the largest scale is that whole build or buy decision, that you buy a big application to sort of make your process. The ERP being one of them, CRM being one of them, right? So all these are sort of the buy decision. If I don't want to build my own CRM, right? I will just go and buy somebody's CRM and apply it, customize it, do all those things. Now, at the smaller scale, right, which what you call as citizen developers, at the smaller scale, it is easier to think about what you can let people do, right? How good are your backend systems are, because all of the low code, no code depend on something else. it is very rare that this low code, no code will exist from the scratch for any specific scenario, right? Because for example, take Power BI, right? Power BI depends that you have some other application generating this data, right? So and you have this specific requirement of creating and displaying reports, right? Now, for that, you don't need to write code, because that is just one part of this whole story of showing data, right? So and displaying it, and somebody's done a good job of that. You can just take it up and configure it, and you can almost get all levels of customization which you want, right? So that actually, I think, is the main reason for us to think about whether this low code, no code is successful or not. My argument is, in some scenarios it will definitely work, right? Like we give examples of reporting or some automation, which is not necessarily, doesn't have to scale to a very high level, right? Maybe tens or hundreds of people, they can do it, right? Beyond a certain level, they stop making sense. But for larger productivity, it is a big enabler, right? This is, I don't have to depend on IT to just give me a customized report. I don't have to depend on IT to make this little bit of approval workflow, right? I don't really have to create a whole new coding base just to maintain this thing. So if I put little effort and get this process to work, and if I don't need it, it is not a big deal. Scrapping is not a big deal, because it's just like I delete one Word document from my folder and I say I don't need this document anymore. So that whole application goes away, because the investment is in the platform. Investment is not on those individual applications.
I think few things which from what you just said, right? If I kind of rephrase it and look at, I think one of the things in the decision model which you just talked about is look at the user base count, right? Of whatever solution that you're going to do, what is the user base? And classically, if it's anything in the magnitude of hundreds to hundreds, right? I think the low code solution will meet that need. Like I'm a sales department, people within my team, anything in 10s, 50s, I know what exactly that they need, and I don't think it's going to be such a big thing. That's one decision point, right? If it's going to be impacted for a very minimal set of users and very focused roles, then that role is better equipped to develop a solution for them. The second thing that you said is backends need to support it, which means they need to be more open, flexible. And I would kind of say it's a decision of what is a microwave that I want to buy and keep in my house, or what is the stove that I want to have. How much of cutlery do I need? Do I need, like for example, I get bread, but there is no spoon or fork in the house, then there is a problem. So probably I need to equip with a microwave and a fork and a kitchen and probably some 2-3 plates. And this should be accessible to the people in the house. Then they can get their own bread or get that MTR mix, put water into it, microwave it and eat it, right? And teach them that. So I think, but then the choice of should I buy this microwave or do I need to have 3 forks or 2 plates or 1 stuff? Probably that is what the IT can take, which is the core and back end system which they want to take. Would I be right if I kind of...
Yeah, let us listen to Ram and Venkat if they have.
Sure, yeah. So I think they have interesting perspectives, right? Venkat comes from a startup where he has, in double quotes, more control over whatever he wants to do. It's a startup, it's an open thing. Ram comes from a conventional enterprise thing where he has to deal with legacy applications, rules, procedures, mindsets, everything. So Venkat, you have none of those. So 2 different scenarios.
Yeah. So as you said, and Deepak also mentioned, whenever you are buying the ready-made stuff, sometimes, and if you take the food analogy, you should not harm your health So it's not only you are buying a junk food and keeping it and eating. So you should also look for your health, how it affects your company. It doesn't mean that we need to buy and use it for everywhere, right? So before using it, first you should know what exactly you need to do. Whether you need to prepare, if you are a diabetic patient, it's better to prepare like simple food, ragi or something, and keep using it, right? So that also keep your health and as well as better for the company. And
So in other words, like for example, if you take it to the tech analogy, what you're trying to say is IT should take the responsibility of identifying whatever is
exactly.
low code, no code solutions, and identify it and enable the others to do it.
Exactly.
So in your scenario, if you think, what are the things that pop up to your mind? What is it that you can enable your team with?
For example, as is mentioned in the like dashboard, if you want to create any kind of dashboard, it's better to go with a Power BI or any other BI tool. I mean, so to prepare like a simple kind of dashboard. Whenever you wanted to integrate deep into your existing system, so it is better go for your own development instead of getting from existing system and integrating it with your own system, where it will create more problem in the long run. Like instead of saying the instead of seeing the benefit in the short term.
No.
So
what my question was, you said there should be a clear identification between junk and food, right? So the question is not how do you identify good food which people can buy? What would be your approach?
Okay, so before going to buy any good food, as you said, we need to look for the ingredients. Okay, so on same way in the software, like what are the technologies? No, if you want to customize any tool or
so
this one.
In a way, are you trying to say that as an IT, I will spend time in making a catalog of tools, right, which can be consumed by the citizen developer? So I will make a catalog. That would be my first step. Make a catalog. You can use Power BI, you can use UiPath, or you can use
or we can just get the requirement. What's your requirement? Based on that, we'll give the catalogs. Okay, for this solution, you can use this tool.
Okay, so basically, but then you need a catalog in place first. So you would say the first step is to make a catalog or a menu of the tools which can be used by citizen developers. You would have to get that.
Yes.
Okay. Ram?
Yes. So as I told you, I'm from enterprise background and there are much more challenges in this area. But, nowadays people are moving towards, self-reliant environment. Even government has started talking about self-reliance now, that you should be able to manage your own needs instead of relying on, others in terms of getting your needs served, right? So mostly, in my opinion, IT industries has already started adopting to that kind of setup. Even in enterprise environments, we have that kind of setup already in place. Like say, for example, in our application itself, we have provided something called query engine, to the end users. What it does is it basically gives the list of accounts which are satisfying various, exception situation, and they can generate a report out of it. Okay. So that is not given as a static report. Okay, so we have given the ability to build a query. Okay, from business perspective. meaning they will be looking for those accounts which are drifting from their contract, like security drift or cash drift from its original contract by this many percentage. So to what extent it is drifting, okay, those percentage information can be parameterized, okay, in their query builder. So they have a query builder screen, okay, which will be building the query from business terms. Okay, and internally that will get converted into the typical technical query that we are using in technology world. Okay, so what flexibility it gives to the businesses, they can build their own combination of business queries, which will internally get converted into technical queries. So the report generation is not flexible; it is not rigid to a preset pattern. Okay, based on their needs, they can keep on using different combination of these reports themselves. Okay, they can and or different combination of these exception reports with different kind of dynamic parameters, and they can generate the report to their needs as and when they want it. Okay, so such kind of flexibility, okay, or the citizen developing capability is already provided in enterprise application also to certain extent. Okay, so all we are doing is we are trying to modernize it to little bit in various aspects, right? So nowadays we also talking about behavioral driven development, wherein you have to develop the use case based on the business scenario, and there are so many tools available in the market which will convert that into technical use case. Right, like say for example, the business themselves can now come up with the use case definition based on their own language, proper normal English. Okay, they don't have to understand the technical details behind. So they come up with some business use case scenario. They write it in normal English language, and that gets converted into technical use cases. And from there we develop our delivery process. Okay, so to certain extent, we are offering, this kind of direct, development capabilities to these citizen developer categories, even today. Okay, and many of the tools are moving towards that already, right? So all we have to, and to certain extent, this artificial intelligence also is coming into play here, right? So we are giving them some kind of small tools. In my opinion, this query engine, the query builder module that we have developed within our application is kind of a little bit, different version of this artificial intelligence itself. Meaning the end user themselves can give some input criteria and they can come out with the solution that they are looking for, right? So everything comes into picture, artificial intelligence, this BDD approach, and even in the enterprise world, their mindset to offer more flexible solution to the users. All these things are coming together, and the idea of self-reliance, everything is blending together to come out with this kind of solutions in various stages, even in the past. And now I believe that things are getting more effective with the new modernized tools and things like that.
Interesting. I think one of my experiences, right, I would like to pick your brain on this. Like when we have this self-query engine, right? I mean, they were, it's been there, the kind of self-query builder, right? Which was like report builder kind of things was there. So you have application, it will have your regular stuff, and then you will have a report builder. Okay. But for me, whenever I expose something like this, right, one of the things which I found is hardly 1% of the business users do this. Even though it is there, they don't use it, right? Any change, they'll come back to the IT and say, get this done. Okay. So the adoption of these self-service tools was below 1% in my experience, right? Has it been different for you?
Yes.
Like let's take this query engine.
Right.
What is the kind of percentage of business users who are actually using it? What is that you have seen?
Correct. It is 100% in our case because, I would say we have been involved in, some kind of agile development mode even, before a decade. Okay, so meaning we have been involving the business in terms of, our development activity and delivery activity. So they have been interacting close with us. So what we do is, there will be some kind of user education activity as a part of this deliverable itself. Okay, so what we do is we develop, this kind of engine, and we used to educate them in terms of generating these reports and technical know-hows. To them, it is little technical, right? It's not totally business oriented.
Correct.
It has a technical component associated to that as well. So we have continuous, educative programs wherein we used to categorically or systematically, train them in terms of how to use this. Okay, so that has been a part of the deliverable mechanism itself. Okay, so today they have this activity on day-to-day basis. Okay, they have gone to the next level and they have asked for a solution where they don't want to come and keep defining the same set of queries on daily basis in order to pull out those kind of exception reports and proceed with trading activities. So basically, what is the intention of this report engine? It pulls out various kinds of exception accounts, okay, that are not in sync with their expected state, so that they can pull out those accounts, they can trade, and they can bring it back to its original state where it is supposed to be. Like, say for example, there has been a security drift and there would have been a bigger withdrawal from that account by the client, so that the account would have gone short of cash. So I have to pull those set of accounts, and there could be a situation, a new set of accounts are getting incepted on daily basis. I should ensure that those accounts are pulled out, and I'm investing, the cash available in the corresponding contract securities. So there could be various situations like this, right?
Actually, you got me excited by telling 100% of your users are using it. I didn't quite expect that. I'm pleasantly shocked and surprised to hear that. Okay, but I think the key point also there you said is about having an agile way of thinking and helping them learn. So I'm kind of curious, how did that happen? How quickly do you release? And how did you make that learning, that teaching, right? You have to teach them how to write a query or that thing. How did that happen? Can you get into that, some details of that? How often? What was the method? So basically developers kind of played the role of a trainer or a teacher.
Absolutely. So we have to tackle from their needs, right? So basically, how we can, influence someone to get, things done. It is from the way we tackle their needs, right? Like, say, for example, they will come out with certain kind of report requirements. Okay, what we do is we are going to say that it's going to cost this much, okay? And it's going to take this much time, okay? And it is going to impact your business because you're not getting it immediately. We already have a query engine which is capable of building such kind of reports. You'll have to spend a little bit of time in terms of understanding a little deeper, with which you are going to be able to get the same thing, whatever you're looking from the technology team, okay, with this delivery. Okay, so what we are going to do is, we can do it in two different ways. Okay, one is we can hype, the time required for delivering this. Okay, one problem here is, we are losing our business. Okay, if they are keep on asking for business, we can keep getting new and new, we can keep generating new and new reports, and with that we will be able to
do your billing.
Billing throughout the period for extended time. Okay,
right.
But there comes your intentions, to what extent you want to really serve your client or the customers. Okay, are you going to get some benefit out of it, or you're going to get their long-term acquaintance? okay, or the continuous acquaintance and the trust, right? So at some point of time, they start realizing that if I spend little more extra time and learning and understanding how to use this tool, okay, I'm going to get much more compared to providing my requirements on periodic basis to the the IT team and get things done from them. That is going to go forever. This we did it some 10-15 years back, and we have been involved in enhancing this tool, okay, but not focusing on the reports whatever they are looking for. So with the term, in terms of enhancing this query engine, in terms of making it more robust and adopting to the new technologies and all, they are getting more benefits out of this tool, and they are leaning more towards using this tool in their day-to-day activity, and that makes it 100% or even more than that. Now without query engine, they cannot survive even a single day in production. That is the situation now.
So what you're telling is it's basically a program which has been running for close to 10 years. More than
that.
10 years. Okay. So I think what you have done is build a culture of self-development or citizen development, right?
Yeah.
And the key point there is when they come with a requirement, you kind of somehow discourage them or call it out for what it is and maybe exaggerate it a little bit to say you are better off learning it by yourself.
Yeah.
And you spend time teaching them, and because they give continuous feedback, instead of you going and building a report, you spend that time enhancing the reporting engine.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the effort, so it's a kind of thinking differently. I get some money in building a report, but instead of that, I save that money and I spend that money in enhancing the reporting engine itself.
Exactly.
So, okay, so this kind of is an interesting question which leads to, this becomes a big problem for services companies, right? Because you're practically letting away money on the table. And when we run from quarter to quarter, when you don't, classically, it's not a long-term thing, right? So how does the account management team, the architect, how does that dynamics work? How do you manage that?
Actually, though this project is being served by service-based companies, Stanley or the client themselves have their own technology wing. Okay. So from that perspective, that all these tool building is, the idea that rooted from the technology wing of the client IT team itself or IT wing itself. So it helps, and they were able to drive the, decision that will be beneficial for, the customers, which are nothing but, those customers are nothing but the employees of their own firm. Right. So that way they're able to make this kind of bold decisions. Okay. And one more thing is, with that they were able to serve the service-based companies which they are associated with also. Okay. It's not like they are doing everything by themselves. They are hiring people from these kind of service-based companies, and they are also being used, staying with them for these many years. Okay. So in a way, if you will think, I just mentioned that it is there for more than 13-14 years. Okay. So what it means is, and there are, some service-based companies, with which we have been involved throughout this period. Okay. So what it means is, directly or indirectly, even the service-based companies are getting the billing for these many years continuously. Okay, so it is a conscious decision, okay, that we have to make, okay, which will benefit everyone in certain aspect. And this is the ideal approach, in my opinion, which benefits all the parties. So if you are oriented more towards immediate billing for the next 3 months or next 6 months or even for a year, okay, you may be happy getting some billing for the next 1 year, right? But with this kind of trust, once you can establish with the ultimate end user, the continuity of this contract or this relationship is going beyond a decade now.
That's actually beautiful that you said helps build trust between IT and tech.
I think what Ram just mentioned is a very interesting case study, I would say.
Yeah. It's actually Ram. That is, you know what? I think we should do probably a separate episode on this where you talk a lot more deep thing on this, because so what you're telling should be called as citizen development program. It for the customer. And that's what will make it unique.
I think there is some history also. There is some history because it's been running for a long time, right? And this is as a change management project, probably the initial first few years is what you can probably, if you have a good story there to share, you can talk about it, because now what we are seeing is the result of all the effort which you made in all those years, right? So that initial, because all companies go through this cycle where you need to build the trust and you get them into the mode that, okay, it's better that you do it yourself rather than us doing it, because we don't really understand what you really need, and this is, we are trying to build trust, right? So I think the keyword which you put there is that you are all the time you're building trust with your users, right? So, and by enabling them, you are further saying that we trust you, that you know what you want, and it is better that you get what you want out of this, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So I think it's a great opportunity, Ram. And the thing is, I think the time is also good because a lot of enterprises are now looking at to see if they can add more development.
You are building trust. So if you want to implement any self-service, so this is a version of self-service or low code, no code, whatever, the people helping themselves, right? We are providing them tools, make the tool work for them in the way they wish, instead of IT thinking it for them. No, IT knows everything and IT should do everything. So no, the users know everything, they know what they want. We just have to enable them. It is a completely different way for even a services company or IT to think about that.
It takes some amount of time for this to happen, and so we got to wait for that time, be ready to play out that time, and in that process, I think the key aspect is to kind of nudge the business towards their own development, probably hyping or calling out the requirement as it is, and kind of giving them an option, I'm willing to teach you to do it, right? Basically letting go of control. The IT has to let go of control. You can do it yourself. And I will tell you how to put the jam on the bread. Now you can make bread and jam whenever you want. So low code, no code is not just a technology change, it's actually a culture change.
Exactly.
Given the new perspective, and it is also proven model. No, it has experiment. He has done experiment. He has proved it. So it is as you said, it is like a matter of trust. So in our program, we also call the trainee trust. No, so it is trusting the client because they are the boss and they know what they want.
Here, right? The key point, that made it successful is the feeling of empowerment, right? The client is feeling. Okay, getting. So that empowerment that I can do whatever, thing that I want the system to do. Okay, the system is capable of doing it, that's a different story. But whether I'm able to use that effectively to do whatever I want, I can do whatever I want to do at any point of time. The report I want, I will be able to generate it myself. That thinking, that empowerment, self-empowerment makes it more successful. Okay. It is something like I'm going to some, from as a spiritual analogy, right? You go to some retreat and you stay happy for a few days, you come back, you lose that thrill and whatever, right? And you never be able to get that kind of, happiness or peacefulness after that when you come back from there. So if you can continue to, stay in that blissful state, even after coming back from the retreat, that gives you that empowerment. So this
analogy.
is that kind of empowerment I believe we have given to our clients, and that is making them more blissful throughout. So I think that would be the success story, the secret behind the success story. Yeah.
Super. Very nice.
Nishant is also on the call, I guess. He can, because he was listening, he's not talking, so maybe he can give us what he heard.
Yeah, Nishant.
He doesn't want to.
Yeah, actually, I joined early. I didn't hear all this discussion. So what I can guess, one of the point is like you guys talked about from this discussions. I mean, I heard some points from Kumaran and Deepak. So my understanding is like, especially I am convinced the last point that Ram mentioned, like the empowerment that is very valid when we involved in the product development. I have that experience. So even we used to hear that comment from our users or the customers, like whenever we give them functionalities or whenever we sell our product, what the customers is looking, or the users or business users or the airline users is really looking is like they know, like to make some changes or to enable a new, to add a new, I will say, I'll put an example, like if we look at the airline example or airline product, to add a new online travel agency or to enable or to onboard a new online travel agency into the system, actually they have to depend IBS to onboard a new OTA or to add an OTA into the system. So what the customer is looking like, why you guys have to do this, to give us the steps to do that, so that we will do it by themselves or we will do it by ourselves, like so that we don't have to depend on IBS to onboard a new OTA into your system. So they are actually, the customers are really looking for a system, as Kuman said, like what we have to give them is like how to paste jam on a bread. Nishant, and they have to...
Nishant, can you repeat all this thing, whatever you said, without using the IBS name?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So otherwise it will be hard for me to edit. So I can just repeat whatever you said. Okay. But without using the, you can say as a product company or as a provider. Okay.
Yeah, as a product company or as a SaaS provider or as a service provider.
Yeah, use that and then you tell that. I mean, you have to repeat the whole thing, whatever you said. You put IBS in different places. It's hard for me to cut it.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So as a product or as a service provider, our airline customers are really looking for a product where they can do or they can tweak themselves to make the changes to enable or to add new online travel agencies into the product. Currently, they have to depend on the service provider to enable a new or to add a new channels or an OTA online travel agency into the product. The customer is asking like why the service provider can't give that control to themselves so that they don't have to depend on the service provider. So actually, based on that request, now the service providers or the product company is actually thinking in a way like, because that is an overhead. In a way, actually that is an overhead to, even though because anyway we are actually, service provider is actually charging for in a different way, not from a
this is not the value add. This is not the value add.
Value adds, exactly. Because earlier we thought like that actually to adding a new online travel agency to a product, actually we can charge another or a change request to customer and we will get money. But that, as Deepak said, it is actually not creating any value addition to either to the service provider or to the consumer or to the customer. So now actually we changed our mindset, and what we are now the service provider or the product owners change the thought process is like make some improvement, or that the actual reason is like there are some limitations to giving that functionality or to giving that full power to the consumer, and we know that limitations can be corrected, because why we kept that limitations, or why the company is keeping the limitations, is like the customer should depend on the service provider to do these things. Then only the service provider can charge additional cost to consumer and get additional revenue. But now
it is like Apple makes their phones very difficult to open, right?
Correct.
Nobody can service them.
Correct. Now the thought process has changed. Actually, now we are thinking, or we are building a functionality in such a way that the customer should have the complete control on that things, and to without informing the service provider or the actual owner of that product, actually they should add whatever users actually they want to add.
Interesting. Yeah, that's true.
Self-service. I think everything now comes back to this is how. So two words I had is empowerment and self-service, right? So if we can empower the users, they can self-service themselves to what they want, and then we can build the trust. So these are the three words for today for me.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a good conversation. Empowerment, self-service, and trust, right? I think, and I think it's also when I was, I think as service providers, the biggest challenge will be our internal teams, is what I guess. The end customer change comes secondary.
I think what Nishant mentioned actually is a very key thing. You see, it is the mindset of the service provider, right? It is not about they have started changing. It says, why should I make money on something where it is no value to me? What will I do? I will just hire somebody who just clicks buttons and does something which is of no value added to the company or to the person himself, right? So that all that BPO stuff which is non-value adding, most of the higher end service provider wants to get out of, and that's why all the self-service and.
I think we're just scratching the surface of this, whatever we are thinking, and what Ram talked about is an existing thing. And I think in the interesting new world, right, it's actually getting pretty exciting as we play. Now I started playing with Power Automate, right? And probably I'll just take 2-3 minutes to share why I'm so excited. Is basically because I have my application, right? I think all the three of you, Venkat, Nishant, Ram and all, right? You would have used my application. Now, I'm trying to, one of the biggest challenges when people journal it. Let's take the simple case, right? All the three of you would have seen, right? In that WhatsApp, you get so many messages, right? As a mentor, I have to look at who has done what and reply to them. Okay. And imagine a group with 20 people. Okay, and I have 5 groups to deal with. Okay, I keep missing a lot of journals, and probably, so I think all of you would have seen some 2 days later, you will get one message about some journal that you have done 2 days back. Okay, so this was a big challenge for me. How could I do this, right? Now we started integrating this with Teams. Now what happens is, this is something which we have done after we kind of completed your thing, Nishant. Okay, so if you give a web hook, right, I can post a journal onto Teams channel. Now once it came into Team, right, it opened up a completely different thing altogether. Now what's happening is inside Teams, right, now I can do a Power Automate, check for journals coming in, and I can actually check for what kind of a journal is it. Is it a ILI journal, or is it an MVP journal, like that? Now what I'm actually doing is I'm converting those special journals alone into a mail and sending it to me. So now I have created another engagement channel for myself through which I can get that by email now. I'm still developing it myself. Now once I get the journal as a mail, Now, all the most important things come as a mail, and I can respond to that. Now, either I can go to WhatsApp and respond, or I can reply to that in an email. Now, this becomes even more stickier. Now that people also, there's a chance that they will also miss the feedback in the WhatsApp group, because each person is again done with so many WhatsApp groups. So to me, this has got me really excited. Now, so basically, if you look at it, it's like a domino effect. One, as a web application provider, I just have to give out that API, which is my core team. They've just done that. Now the core team, interesting thing, those guys even don't know I'm doing this. But of course, I have a little bit of technical knowledge, right? Like Ram was telling, probably I know how to understand an API or how to put different UI elements and do that. I know that bit. Maybe that's what we will enable the business users. Now, I will actually, unfortunately, my tech team looks at me as a tech guy. So I don't think they can really appreciate that a business user would have done it. But let's say Sukumar, right? He does it. Right, then they will actually understand that. So, for example, probably in, let's say, for example, I think Nishant, right, in your case, your end user customers, or Venkat in your case, right, Raj or Arpan, they should be able to do the solution themselves. Okay, so that, now I can actually do this whole thing where this mail will come to me and then look at it and send it. But if I had asked a developer to do the same thing, right, I kind of I'll totally spend some 6 hours before I can get this to full-fledged use. I've spent some 3 hours so far. Okay. If I take development, I think it will take me 6 hours to make the developers understand itself what I want.
And I think what is happening now with the tools is the tools are now enabled by some kind of algorithms, which you can call it AI or whatever, right? So these algorithms are actually now analyzing what you are trying to do. They're already, it's just the example which you gave a few episodes back was where you try to do the Power BI and it automatically generates some reports by default. So this is the kinds of reports you can get out of it, right? Nobody is manually getting into your data and doing it. It's an algorithm which is just analyzing the data and say, okay, this seems relevant. Why don't I throw it out to the user and say, okay, do you want this? You can take this, and the same thing is happening with design. You see, if you want to build a Power App for that matter, right? It will automatically generate some design for you. You don't have to worry about UI design and things like that.
I think one more point, right? I think it's a huge topic. I think one leads to another. But I think the back-end support, right, which Venkat was talking about. Now, all this is happening because I'm talking so much about Power BI and Automate and Power Automate, all these things working. Can you guess what's the thing which is, Deepak cannot answer this question, maybe Nishant, Venkat and Ram. Can you guess what is the key back-end enabler for all these things to happen? You should have a little exposure to the Microsoft world. Maybe not. I think all three of you have not that much of exposure, right? Ram, you are more in Unix and C and that kind of thing, right? Oracle.
Yeah, Java kind of.
Okay, I think the same goes for Nishant and Venkat as well. Okay, it's got to do with Office 365, right? Office 365 on the cloud. And all customers, I think Microsoft is slowly kind of nudging everybody to go into Microsoft Office 365. And that is one of the key enablers for this. This would not have been possible if each and every company has their own instance of, let's say, SharePoint or Teams. It will become very cumbersome. So for us, when we develop apps, we need to look at our apps without a head. Look at it that way. Headless apps. Which means when you design an app, you will not think, you will assume that there's going to be no front end. You don't know how the front end will be. Will it be a screen? Will it be a mobile application? Will it be an Excel? Will it be a Teams? Will it be a Slack channel? You should have no idea. So when you develop it, you should provide it like a true service provider, which means you can only think. I mean, like I've been trying with my small team of 4 developers and it's been hard. I said, before you do any functionality, it has to be an API. You cannot do the screen and then do it. So then you start thinking APIs, it kind of sets us on that path of enabling.
API is the back end. API will be the back end for all these applications.
Yeah. So if that, so basically application is cloud ready, scalability is just one part of it, right? And other thing is about how much of it is API driven. Literally everything in that app should be done by API. Now that will be the most thing which will enable this end user development. So in your case, I think Ram, what you shared, the front end tool knows what the API is. Now we are taking it to the next stage. The front end tool itself can be done by the developers. Probably that. So for example, he would say, you know what, I don't want to use, I want from Excel, I want to do this report. I want to write a macro and do it myself. Today from Excel, I'm typing it into Service Engine. Why don't I do it from Excel itself?